On the wide golden grasslands of sub-Saharan Africa, where the acacias throw long shadows at dawn and the air already hums with insects, one of the strangest partnerships in all of nature is waking up. A huge, dark shape shifts in the grass, a Cape buffalo weighing the better part of a ton, its heavy horns sweeping low as it grazes. And riding on its back, its flanks, even the ridge of its great head, are small brown birds, hopping and clinging and probing at its hide, as if the buffalo were a moving landscape of their own. This is the oxpecker, and this is the story of how a tiny bird and an enormous beast come to depend on each other to stay alive. At first glance, the pairing makes no sense. The buffalo is one of the most formidable animals on the continent, strong enough to kill a lion, quick to anger, armored in muscle and horn. The oxpecker is barely the size of a starling, light enough to perch on an ear without being noticed. Yet the two have struck a bargain written over millions of years, a deal so useful to both sides that the buffalo carries its little passengers everywhere it goes, and the birds spend almost their entire lives within reach of a hoof that could crush them in an instant. There are two kinds of oxpecker on these plains, the red-billed and the yellow-billed. And though they differ in small ways, their lives run along the same lines. Both are built for a single, peculiar profession. Their claws are sharp and strongly curved, made for gripping the coarse hide of a moving animal. Their tails are stiff and propping, like a woodpecker's, so they can brace themselves against a heaving flank. Their flattened bills are tools, scissoring sideways through fur to comb out whatever is hiding there. Everything about the oxpecker has been shaped, feather by feather, to make a living on the bodies of the great grazing herds. The two species divide the work in subtle ways. The red-billed oxpecker is the smaller and more restless of the pair, quick and jittery, favoring buffalo, giraffes, and antelope, and swarming over a host in busy, chattering numbers. The yellow-billed oxpecker is heavier and calmer, often the first to claim the broadest backs, and in many areas the two overlap, feeding on the same animals without open conflict. Both were once far more common than they are today, for cattle dips and poisons meant to kill ticks also killed the birds that fed on them, and in places the oxpecker vanished along with the parasites it hunted. Where the poisons eased, the birds returned, a quiet reminder of how tightly their fate is knotted to the herds, and to us. But every oxpecker begins its life far from the back of any buffalo, in the dark hollow of a tree. Oxpeckers nest in cavities, holes in old trunks and dead limbs, lining them with grass, and remarkably, often with hair and dung pulled straight from the very animals they ride. Into this snug, smelly chamber, the female lays her small clutch of eggs, and for the next couple of weeks, the future of the partnership is nothing more than a few fragile shells hidden in the wood. When the chicks hatch, they are as helpless as any songbird, blind and nearly naked, their heads too heavy for their bodies, their whole existence reduced to a gaping mouth and a demand for food. They cannot cling, they cannot fly. They know nothing yet of buffalo or ticks or the open plain. For now, their world is the inside of a tree and the shadows of the adults that come and go at the entrance, bringing food gathered from the hides of animals grazing somewhere nearby. And here, the oxpecker reveals a secret that makes it stranger still. It is often not raised by its parents alone. Oxpeckers frequently breed with helpers, extra adults, usually young from earlier broods, that pitch in to feed and guard the new chicks. A single nest may be attended by several birds, all working the same herd by day and returning to the same hollow by night. Like the meerkat and a handful of other social animals, the oxpecker has learned that, in a hard world, many hands raise a family better than two. The food those adults bring is the whole reason the partnership exists. The hide of a buffalo is not clean. It is a crowded, itching habitat in its own right, home to ticks swollen with blood, to biting flies and their larvae, to lice and leftover scraps of skin and the raw edges of old wounds. For a large grazing animal, this cargo of parasites is a constant drain, an itch that cannot be scratched, a set of tiny wounds that will not close. And for a bird that knows how to harvest them, it is a feast that walks itself from one patch of grass to the next. A single large buffalo can be a walking ecosystem all its own. Hundreds of ticks may cling to it at once, each one swelling with blood before dropping off to breed. And with them come the diseases they carry. Fevers and infections that can weaken or kill even a healthy bull. Biting flies lay their eggs in the moist corners of the eyes and in open sores, and their larvae burrow into the skin. Left unchecked, this hidden multitude drains the animal day and night, an invisible tax paid in blood. The buffalo cannot reach most of it, cannot preen or pick or scratch the places that matter, and so it grazes on while the parasites feed. Unless something small and sharp-eyed comes to hunt them down.
On the African
So the
savannah,
buffalo
every
offers the
vantage point
oxpecker
counts.
two priceless things:
This oxpecker has found
a
the
reliable
perfect
supply
partner,
of food,
a tiny
and
guardian
a mobile perch
watching over
high
a
above
giant.
the grass, safe from many ground-based dangers. In return, the oxpecker offers grooming, hour after hour of patient work, clearing away the parasites that no buffalo could ever reach on its own. It is the classic image of cooperation in the wild. Two utterly different creatures, each giving the other exactly what it cannot provide for itself. That, at least, is the simple version of the story. Back in the nest, the chicks grow with the speed that small birds must. Within days, their eyes open, pin feathers push through bare skin, and the gaping mouths grow louder and more insistent. The adults shuttle back and forth in a blur, ferrying beakfuls of ticks and fly larvae from the herd to the hollow, and the helpers work alongside the parents so that the chicks are fed more often and more richly than a single pair could ever manage. In the safety of the wood, the next generation of groomers is being built out of the parasites of the plain. Then comes the day the young birds leave the tree. Fledging is a clumsy, dangerous business. The first flights short and uncertain, the landings worse. But an oxpecker fledgling faces a challenge no ordinary songbird does. It must learn not just to fly, but to ride. Somewhere out on the grassland, there are animals it has never seen, moving mountains of muscle and horn that it must approach,
For this young
land on,
oxpecker,
and cling
taking
to.
the first step
And it must
is
do
a
all of
balancing
this
act.
without being kicked,
It has
rolled,
found a home for
or
life.
shaken off. The lesson begins almost at once. Young oxpeckers follow the adults to the herd and watch, the way so many young animals learn, by copying. They see the older birds drop onto a buffalo's back and set to work, and they try it themselves, fluttering down, scrabbling for a grip, sometimes sliding off a smooth flank and having to try again. Little by little, the curved claws find their purchase. The stiff tail learns to brace, and the young bird discovers how to move across a living, breathing surface that shifts and swings beneath its feet with every step the buffalo takes. The work itself is a craft. An oxpecker does not simply peck at random. It scissors its bill sideways through the hair, parting it like a comb, hunting along the warm, hidden places where parasites gather: the ears, the eye rims, the nostrils, the folds of the neck, the soft skin between the legs. It plucks engorged ticks one by one, snips away biting flies, and cleans the crusted edges of sores. A busy oxpecker can clear hundreds of ticks from a single host in a day, and a buffalo carrying a full crew of them wears a living, feathered grooming team that never quite stops working. And the birds give something beyond grooming, something that may matter even more. Oxpeckers are nervous, watchful creatures, quick to react to anything that alarms them. And when they take fright, they explode off the host in a chattering, hissing rush. To a buffalo with poor eyesight, that sudden clamor is a warning as clear as any shout. A lion creeping through the grass, a crocodile easing toward a drinking herd, a human hunter drawing close. All of these can set the oxpeckers off, and the buffalo has learned to trust the bird's alarm and lift its head to look. The little groomers are also sentinels, a feathered early warning system riding on the back of the herd. That warning is not a gentle thing. When an oxpecker takes fright, it lets out a harsh, hissing chirr, a rasping alarm that carries across the grass, and the whole flock may erupt at once, rising in a ragged cloud above the herd. Buffalo are not the only ones to listen. Antelope, zebra, and other grazers nearby all read the same signal, so a single nervous bird can send a warning rippling across the plain. For a hunting lion, this is a curse, the loss of the surprise that a stalk depends on, and more than one careful approach has collapsed the instant the oxpeckers rose screaming into the air. In this, the tiny bird holds a strange power over animals 100 times its size. But nature is rarely as tidy as a fable, and the oxpecker carries a darker reputation as well. The same bird that clears away ticks also has a taste for blood. It will work at a wound rather than let it heal, keeping the raw edges open, drinking from the animal it is supposed to be cleaning. Some researchers argue that oxpeckers take so much blood and do so little to reduce tick numbers that they are less a helpful partner than a clever parasite in disguise, feeding on the buffalo under cover of grooming. The truth, as usual, lies somewhere in between. On a healthy animal with few open sores, the oxpecker earns its keep, stripping away parasites and cleaning the hide. On a wounded one, the same instincts turn against the host, the bird returning again and again to the same wound, prolonging it for the sake of an easy meal. The relationship is not pure friendship, and never was. It is a bargain balanced on a knife's edge.
It is
useful
a delicate
most
balance
of the time, costly some of the
between
time,
healer
and endlessly
and freeloader.
negotiated between two animals with very different interests. For the young oxpecker learning the trade, none of this is a moral question. It is simply how a living is made. It learns where the richest pickings are, which hosts tolerate it and which do not, and how to read the mood of the enormous animal beneath its feet. A buffalo that shakes its head or swings a horn is telling the bird to move, and an oxpecker that fails to listen can be flung off or hurt. Survival here means understanding not only parasites, but the temper of the beast that carries you. The buffalo, for its part, lives a hard life of its own, and the birds are only a small part of it. A Cape buffalo is a herd animal, finding safety in numbers, in a wall of horns and a mass of bodies that even lions hesitate to challenge. The herd moves together, grazes together, and defends itself together, and the calf born into it is guarded by dozens of adults ready to charge anything that threatens it. The oxpeckers ride this moving fortress from birth, their fortunes rising and falling with the fate of the animals they cling to. The birds pay special attention to the young. A buffalo calf, born into the churn of the herd, is a fresh and unguarded landscape for ticks, its soft hide quickly colonized in the first weeks of life. Oxpeckers work these newcomers over carefully, and a calf soon grows used to the tickle of claws and the sideways rasp of bills as part of the ordinary business of living. In this way, each new generation of buffalo is introduced to each new generation of birds, the partnership handed down on both sides at once, calf and fledgling settling into the same old arrangement without ever being taught it. And the fortunes of a buffalo can fall hard. Lions hunt them in coordinated prides, singling out the young, the old, and the sick, and a hunt at the water's edge can turn the dust red in minutes. Crocodiles wade in the rivers where the herd must drink.
on the banks of the mighty
Drought
river.
withers the
Tension
grass
hangs
and
in
weakens
the
the
air.
strongest
Even
bulls.
a giant must drink with
Disease
caution,
can sweep through a
for
herd packed
danger
tightly
lies
together.
waiting in the shallows.
Through all of it, the oxpeckers stay close, grooming the survivors, abandoning the fallen, following the herd onward across a landscape that offers no guarantees to anything living on it. When a host dies, the birds simply move to another, An oxpecker is loyal to the herd, not to any single animal. And a young bird must learn early that its perch is temporary. It will spend its life shifting from buffalo to buffalo, and often to other hosts as well. For oxpeckers ride giraffes, rhinos, antelope, zebras, and cattle, wherever the parasites are thick and the hide is broad. The buffalo may be the classic partner, but the oxpecker's true allegiance is to the great grazing community as a whole. Not every animal welcomes the birds. Elephants and some antelope shake them off impatiently, tossing their heads and flicking their skin until the oxpeckers give up and move on. And a few hosts simply will not tolerate a bird working near their eyes or ears. The oxpecker learns these limits quickly, reading each animal for the line between what is allowed and what is not. On a patient buffalo, it may probe the most tender places unbothered, while on a touchy host, it must snatch what it can and retreat. Every ride is a small negotiation, and a wise bird knows when a perch is worth the risk and when it is better to seek an easier back among the herd. It is this watchfulness that earned the bird some of its oldest names. In parts of Africa, the oxpecker is known as the rhino's guard, the little sentinel that rides the thick-skinned giants and shrieks at the first sign of trouble. And to a nearly blind rhinoceros, that alarm can mean the difference between a peaceful wallow and a deadly ambush. Whatever the host, buffalo or rhino or giraffe, the bargain reads the same: sharp eyes and a loud voice, traded for a warm perch and an endless supply of parasites. The oxpecker sells its vigilance to any animal willing to buy it with the parasites on its back. Danger runs both ways, of course, and the oxpecker has enemies of its own. Birds of prey snatch them from the air and from the backs of their hosts. Snakes and small climbing predators raid their nests in the trees. A fledgling that lands badly or lingers too long on the ground is exposed in a way it never is high on a buffalo's shoulders. The very habit that keeps it safe, staying close to a huge and dangerous animal, is also a gamble. For a startled buffalo crashing through brush can dislodge or crush the bird it carries. There are gentler rhythms in the oxpecker's life as well. At dusk, the birds leave the herds and gather to roost, flocking together in reed beds and trees, packing close for warmth and safety through the night. They preen, they squabble, they settle. And at first light, they scatter back across the plain to find the herds again, guided by sound and memory to the great dark shapes moving through the grass. The partnership is renewed every single morning, host and groomer finding each other once more as the sun comes up. The great turning of the seasons shapes all of this. When the rains come and the grass grows thick, the herds grow fat and the ticks multiply in the warm, wet air. And it is then, in the season of plenty, that the oxpeckers breed. There is more food to carry to the nest, more parasites on every host, more room in a generous world for another brood of demanding chicks. When the dry season returns and the plains harden and pale, the birds tighten their lives again, ranging farther for thinner pickings, following the herds to whatever green remains. Feast and famine wash over the oxpecker just as they wash over the buffalo, the two rising and falling together on the same slow tide. As the young oxpecker matures, it takes its place fully in this world. It becomes an expert rider, a skilled groomer, a sharp-eyed sentinel. In time, it may pair off and nest in a tree hollow of its own, and it may spend seasons as a helper first, feeding the chicks of others exactly as it was once fed, before raising young of its own. The lesson comes full circle. The parasites of the plain converted once more into a new generation of birds, and the ancient bargain with the herds carried forward into another year. And yet, as with every animal on these plains, there is no final safety, no moment when the oxpecker has won. The hawks will keep hunting. the hosts will keep dying and being replaced. Drought and fire and disease will keep reshaping the herds the birds depend on. And every dawn will ask the same question it asked the day before: whether there will be enough parasites, enough hosts, enough luck to see another sunset. The oxpecker has no answer, except the one it has always had: to keep working, keep watching, and keep riding. What it has instead of victory is the partnership itself, a relationship older than memory, imperfect and unequal, and endlessly useful, binding the smallest of birds to the greatest of beasts. The buffalo carries the oxpecker through a dangerous world, and the oxpecker, in its restless, self-interested way, helps carry the buffalo, cleaning it, warning it, and drawing a living from its hide. Neither could have designed such an arrangement. Neither truly understands it. And yet, morning after morning, the birds rise from their roosts, the herds lift their heavy heads, and the two find each other again in the grass. So the story that began in the dark of a tree hollow ends where every story on the savannah ends, out in the open, under a vast sky, with the herd grazing on, and the small brown birds riding its back. The buffalo endures, the oxpecker endures, and the strange, stubborn partnership between them, tested by lions and drought and the plain, endless hunger of the wild, simply continues. One more dawn, one more tick, one more mile of golden grass.